Okay, welcome to another episode of Mr. K is Wrong. And as you may have guessed from the title, this one might be a little bit of a goofy one because it's called Come and Pasteurize It from My Cold Dead Hands. So it's about milk and pasteurization. And if you don't know who Mr. K is, he's somebody that I knew in my high school days. And I debunk his crap on Facebook because he went further and further down the right wing rabbit hole and he said a bunch of stupid stuff through his memes on Facebook. This time, the right wing meme features Thomas Massie, who is an elected politician who posted on Twitter or X, if you want to call it that. But anyway, his little meme says, hashtag come and take it, hashtag real milk, hashtag raw milk, hashtag real food, hashtag make milk great again. Then in the meme, Rob McNeely responds, cow milk is meant for baby cows, not humans. So Massie then responds to that, eat your bugs and leave us alone. So the meme is by libertarian memes to convert the extremes, and it's a sort of strange meeting of the minds, I guess. And the meme, in a nutshell, has Thomas Massie, who is a so called libertarian leaning congressman, promoting raw milk with hashtags like hashtag real milk and hashtag come and take it, framing it as a freedom or anti government issue. And toward the end of the episode, as sort of an addendum, I'm going to go over ways in which this Massie character is actually not really that good of a libertarian. But anyway, Rob McNeely replies with the common vegan anti dairy claim cow milk is meant for baby cows, not humans. So, Massie replies sarcastically with eat your bugs and leave us alone. The implication, if you oppose raw milk, you must be part of the quote unquote globalist anti meat agenda. So, what's fact here and what is the fluff? So, the first claim is that, or the first claim I want to address is the claim that cow milk is meant for baby cows. So, that's true in a sense, but misleading. Yes, biologically, cows produce milk for calves. But humans have been drinking animal milk for literally thousands of years. So what matters is whether it's safe, healthy, and sustainable, not its original purpose. By his stated logic, honey is meant for bees, and we therefore shouldn't eat that either. Or you could say, plants aren't really meant to be eaten, so why do we eat plants? If you want to take the animal aspect completely out of it, the same logic would apply to eating anything. You know, you can't truly prove that things exist here to be eaten by anyone or anything. So you could say that their natural purpose defies that we should have any food, because their natural purpose is not exclusively to be consumed by other living things. And, the logic just breaks down rather quickly. Evolution has given many humans the ability to digest milk into adulthood. It's called lactose persistence, especially in Europe, parts of Africa, and the Middle East. And then, of course, there are people who are lactose intolerant. So, the bottom line with that particular part of the meme, it's a naturalistic fallacy to say something is bad because it wasn't its original purpose. Nature doesn't define morality or diet. These are sort of things that we create as human beings, right? We can even throw out the rules if we want. Like if some if somebody wants to say it's their freedom to drink bleach, well, they could go ahead and drink bleach, and they could be totally free to do that. Well, until they OD on bleach and presumably die, right? So freedom, well, isn't always free, as they say. So what about another claim here that raw milk is real milk? Massie is framing as ideological, not scientific. Massie is implying that raw milk or unpasteurized milk is superior or more authentic than pasteurized milk. And that's a personal preference, not scientific consensus. The reality is that raw milk can carry dangerous pathogens like E. coli, listeria, and salmonella. You know, there's a reason people pasteurize it. And what exactly is pasteurization? Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but last time I checked, what it entails is that you heat up the milk to kill bacteria, right? Those pathogens that are potentially harmful, that may even be able to kill you. So, pasteurization is a public health success. It reduces risk without significantly altering the nutritional content of milk. Seems like a pretty significant gain. And you don't need to eat bugs or whatever to understand that. So, raw milk isn't more real, it's just unpasteurized. The safety trade off is what matters here. And the bottom line is choosing raw milk. Maybe you think it's your right, and, okay, you can die on that hill, but calling it real milk while dismissing health risks is disingenuous, and I'll just go ahead and say it. I think it's stupid, right? Because E. coli really does exist. The public health problems with not cooking meat also exists. People get diarrhea for a reason. It's the body trying to get rid of, what is making the person sick or the animal. If it's, some sort of animal that has it. Of course, you can get diarrhea for other reasons, such as just being stressed or whatever. There can be other health reasons for it, but one of the reasons is undercooked food or maybe unpasteurized milk. So, the other claim is eat your bugs and leave us alone, which is a straw man and a deflection. This is where the meme fully derails into culture war rhetoric. No one in this exchange was promoting eating bugs, at least not that I'm aware. It's a sarcastic jab, perhaps, but it is an attempt to link public health or environmentalism with the quote unquote globalist agenda. This line shuts down real discussion by mocking a position that no one actually even made. So the bottom line, it's not really an argument, it's just a culture war quip. It distracts from the actual questions. Is raw milk safe and should it be regulated? Maybe you're one of those people who doesn't believe anything should be regulated. Well, okay, you can take that position, but here's the thing, like even if you believe that the government should be off of people's backs, you shouldn't have health inspectors and whatnot. Well, the problem is you still have health and safety problems that could result from a lack of regulation. So that's why when it comes to real libertarians like the anarchists out there, they will most often believe in having industrial norms and practices that would, at the very least, act as if they are regulations. They're in favor of having a sort of industrial standard that is reacting to the interests and concerns of consumers. They believe in having sort of an industrial organization that is run by the workers and consumers, and they would have safety norms that are sort of built in to the structure of the industry. But right-wing libertarians don't seem to be in favor of that. In fact, in a lot of cases, they seem to be anti-union. So that's a little bit quirky. And, the takeaway here is that the meme isn't about nutrition, it's about signaling ideological identities. You have rugged individualism versus perceived nanny state control. But if you actually care about food and health, raw milk is legal in some places, but it should be labeled properly if sold. And that's why people want at least some regulations in place. Or, of course, even if you're more of a radical anarchist type, you at least want industrial standards to be, a normal thing. And I'm not sure what the global free market would actually do in this scenario if, people were just randomly thrown into the situation of having no regulations and no culture that supports, health and safety standards, with, without the guardrails, I guess. I'll just put it like that. So pasteurization protects health, public health, and you can criticize factory farming or promote food freedom without spreading misinformation or disinformation. And lastly, I kind of promised I would get into, the flaws of this Massie character. And despite being a supposed libertarian, Massie opposes reproductive rights for women. So isn't that some crap, Massie endorsed Florida Governor Ron DeSantis for president in the 2024 election. So for one thing, why would a libertarian need a president in the first place? Plus, DeSantis was, of course, in favor of things like book bans in schools and the mere mentioning of gender identity in the classroom, which is not very libertarian. And he believes in intellectual property, which is basically the legal right to claim exclusive ownership of a concept, which even he admits is not actually a libertarian position. Well, he claims it's the only area in which he's not a libertarian. But actually, there's the reproductive health rights for women thing. There's the fact that he supports Ron DeSantis's culture war crap imposed by the law, and presumably other stuff. Like, another thing I found is that Massie said that Kyle Rittenhouse showed incredible restraint because Rittenhouse didn't empty a magazine into a crowd. So Massie is such a libertarian that he believes that, you should be able to uh, shoot up, somebody at a protest. So that sounds very libertarian. And keep in mind, in the Kyle Rittenhouse case, the man Rittenhouse shot was actually unarmed. So, the others who attacked Rittenhouse while he was, making his getaway, they attacked him because they had reason to believe that Kyle Rittenhouse was actually an active shooter. And even though Rittenhouse got away with the shooting of numerous people, nevertheless, it's not exactly an example of somebody showing restraint. It's actually quite the opposite. And of course, there are a lot of people who think that Rittenhouse should have been thrown into a prison. Although, of course, he technically was underage at the time, so he might have got a lighter sentence anyway. But it's tricky to say because when you kill somebody, you kill somebody. But anyway, that's this Massie guy for you. And well, if you are gonna drink milk, you should probably make sure that it has been pasteurized. And remember that you can also eat honey, even though it was originally intended for bees. So, yeah.